figures available, but I'm very happy to give them to him. Miliband.
Mr. Speaker, this is an important point because the Prime Minister reassured people when he was selling his tuition fees policy, and it was in his own words that there will be a basic threshold of £6,000. In exceptional circumstances, some universities will be allowed to charge £9,000. Well, of the 23 universities that have announced their fees, 18, that's more than 80%, are planning to charge £9,000. It's not the exception, it's the rule. Now, I'm afraid not for the first time, Mr. Speaker, this policy has not been implemented in a competent way. Now the next problem that he faces in relation to this policy is it will cost the Treasury more money to fund the loans. Can he guarantee that money will not come from university budgets or through a reduction in student numbers?
Well, first of all, it is worth reminding the House that university tuition fees were first introduced by the party opposite. The point I'd make to him is there are two important points on this threshold. First of all, each university will have to spend £900 per place on access requirements. That's the first point. The second point is it is the Office of Access that will decide whether or not they can go to that 9,000 threshold, and very tough rules have been published and placed in this House for people to see. In terms of the additional revenue, the additional money that will go into higher education, he's absolutely right. Because of the system we're introducing, we will actually be spending more overall on universities. That's right. But the key is this, that because of the reductions in spending we're having to make elsewhere, this is the only way to guarantee we have well-funded universities, well-stocked libraries, well-paid lecturers, and good universities to take on the world.
Mr. Speaker, I was just asking a very simple question, which was where was the money going to come from, given that they've miscalculated the level of tuition fees? Because universities up and down the country are worried that this Prime Minister doesn't think an 80% cut in the teaching budget is enough, and they're going to come back for more. Now, let me turn to another area of public services, which I don't think the government's getting quite right, and that is in relation to policing. The police minister was asked on the radio this morning 8 times whether the number of frontline police officers will fall. Can I ask the Prime Minister, will there be fewer frontline police officers in the years ahead?
Well, according to Home Office statistics, if all forces achieve the current best average for visibility and availability, that would increase the number of officers available by 8,000. Miliband!
Mr. Speaker, I don't think people will even understand what that answer was supposed to mean, frankly. Because he should listen to the Chief Inspector of Lancashire. We cannot leave the front line untouched, and that is because of the scale of the cuts. And also, 2,000 police officers are being forced out under the A19 rules. Sergeant Dave Hewitt, I will be walking away from the force, unfortunately not through choice. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still young and I wanted to continue being a neighbourhood sergeant. That sounds like a frontline police officer to me. Now, can I ask the Prime Minister the same question? Does he expect there to be fewer frontline police officers in the years ahead? Yes or no?
Yeah. There is no reason why there should be fewer frontline officers. And look, Mr. Speaker, look, both parties agree that the police budget has to be cut. I heard the Shadow Chancellor on the MAR programme, and he said this: we would have made cuts to policing. So, they would have cut policing, we have to cut the policing budget. The question is, how do you make those cuts? We say you've got to freeze police pay for 2 years, you've got to reform police allowances, you've got to cut their paperwork. Because you oppose all of those things, you would have to make deeper cuts in police numbers. That is the case.
Mr. Speaker, it's very simple. We propose 12% cuts in the policing budget. He's proposing 20% cuts. And HMIC said if you go beyond 12% cuts, then it's likely to lead to cuts in frontline officers, which is exactly what is happening up and down this country. Mr. Speaker, the truth is, he used to claim that they were the party of law and order, but now he is cutting the number of police officers up and down the country. It's the wrong choice for the police, it's the wrong choice for communities, and it's the wrong choice for the country as well.
Not for the first time, the right honourable gentleman is completely wrong. The difference between The difference between a 12% reduction and what we're proposing is the freeze in police pay and the reform of police allowances that he refuses to support. And I have to say, has anyone seen a more ridiculous spectacle than the right honourable gentleman marching against the cuts that it was his government that caused? I know Martin Luther King said he had a dream. I think it's time the honourable gentleman woke up.